"We're not funding this circus." My mother's voice cut through the busy restaurant, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. She pushed the wedding planner's portfolio back across the table toward me, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the leather cover. "The wedding is canceled, effective immediately." I sat frozen, my fork halfway to my mouth. Beside me, my fiancé Harrison shifted uncomfortably in his chair. We had gathered for what was supposed to be a celebratory lunch to finalize the last details of our wedding, now just 6 weeks away. My mother smoothed her silk blouse and continued, her tone as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "I've already called the venue. The deposit is non-refundable, but that's your problem now. Consider it a lesson in realistic expectations." I didn't cry, I didn't shout. Instead, I carefully set down my fork, reached into my handbag, and pulled out a cream envelope I had prepared 3 days ago. I slid it across the table to her. "What's this?" she asked, her confident expression faltering slightly. "Something for you to read," I replied calmly, "when you get home." My name is Sophia Torres, and I'm 29 years old. Until this moment, I had played the role of the obedient daughter perfectly. I had gone to the college my mother chose, dated men she approved of, and worked at the family law firm where she was a senior partner. Every decision in my life had been filtered through her expectations. Harrison and I had been together for 3 years. He was everything my mother claimed to want for me: a corporate lawyer, well-educated, from a respectable family. But from the moment we got engaged 8 months ago, she had done nothing but criticize our plans. The venue was too expensive. The guest list was too long. My dress was too modern. Harrison's family wasn't prominent enough. Every meeting about the wedding turned into a battle, with my mother finding new reasons why our choices were wrong. What she didn't know was that I had been documenting everything. Every dismissive comment, every changed plan, every promise she made, and then broke. I had been preparing for this moment for 3 months, ever since I overheard her telling my aunt that she planned to sabotage the wedding to teach me a lesson about independence. "Mom, you can't just cancel the wedding," Harrison finally spoke up, his voice tight with frustration. "We've been planning this for months. The invitations are already sent." My mother turned to him with the same cold smile she used in courtrooms. "Harrison, dear, when you're paying for something, you get to make the decisions. Since your family contribution has been minimal, I suggest you stay quiet." I watched Harrison's face flush with embarrassment. His family wasn't wealthy like mine, but they had offered what they could. My mother had thrown that in his face countless times, always when I wasn't supposed to be listening. "Actually, Mom," I said calmly, "the wedding isn't canceled. It's just not going to be the wedding you planned." She laughed, a sharp sound that made the waiter pause mid-step. "Really? And how exactly do you plan to afford a wedding on your associate's salary? The venue alone costs $40,000. I smiled, thinking of the documents in that envelope. The ones that detailed every expense she had claimed for the wedding, including the venues she had supposedly paid deposits for but hadn't. The same deposits I had quietly paid myself over the past 3 months. "I'll manage," I said simply. My mother stood up abruptly, gathering her designer handbag. "This conversation is over. You'll come to your senses once you realize how childish you're being. Harrison, I suggest you reconsider this marriage. My daughter clearly isn't ready for adult responsibilities." Harrison opened his mouth to respond, but I touched his arm gently. "Let her go," I whispered. We watched as my mother swept out of the restaurant, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Several diners had stopped eating to watch the drama unfold. I felt their stares, but kept my composure. "What was in that envelope?" Harrison asked quietly after she left. "Everything she needs to know," I replied, signaling the waiter for the check. "She'll understand tonight." Harrison squeezed my hand. "Are you okay? I know this is hard." I was more than okay. For the first time in years, I felt free. My mother had finally shown her hand completely, and I had been ready for it. What she didn't realize was that her attempt to control me had just freed me entirely. The waiter brought the check, and I paid with my personal credit card. My mother had always paid for family dinners, another way of keeping control. Not anymore. That evening, I sat in the apartment Harrison and I shared, waiting. I knew my mother would open that envelope the moment she got home. It was 7 p.m. when my phone started buzzing with calls from her number. I silenced each one, letting them go to voicemail. By 7:30 p.m., my father called. "Sophia, your mother is very upset. She's saying something about legal documents and bank statements. What's going on?" "Dad, I love you, but this is between Mom and me," I said gently. "Everything will make sense soon." "She's threatening to cut you off completely," he warned. "I know," I replied. "I've been expecting that." What my parents didn't know was that I had been financially preparing for this moment for over a year. While working at the family firm, I had been quietly building a client base of my own. Small cases that my mother considered beneath her notice. Divorces for middle-class families, estate planning for modest incomes, contract reviews for small businesses. I had saved every penny from those cases in a separate account. An account my mother knew nothing about. The same account that now held enough money to pay for my wedding, first and last month's rent on a new office space, and 6 months of living expenses. The next morning, I arrived at the law firm early. My mother's office door was closed, which was unusual. She was always the first one there, her door open, ready to critique anyone who walked past. My assistant, Bryce, looked up nervously as I approached my office. "She's been in there since 6 a.m., he whispered. "She asked for all your case files an hour ago." "Did you give them to her?" I asked calmly. "I told her I needed your authorization first," he replied. "She wasn't happy." I smiled. Bryce had been my assistant for 2 years, and he had figured out months ago that something was brewing. He was loyal, efficient, and most importantly, he understood boundaries that my mother didn't respect. "Good work," I said. "Get me copies of my client list and all my case notes. Personal email only." He nodded and got to work immediately. Within 20 minutes, I had digital copies of everything I needed. My clients, my cases, my research. Everything that was mine, not the firm's. At 9 a.m. sharp. My mother's door opened. "Sophia, my office now." I gathered my tablet and walked calmly into her domain. My mother's office was exactly as I expected. Immaculate, cold, designed to intimidate. She sat behind her massive desk, the envelope I had given her yesterday placed prominently in front of her. "Sit," she commanded. I remained standing. I prefer to stand. Her eyes narrowed. "You've been stealing from this firm." "I've been building my own practice," I corrected. "Using my own time, my own resources, and clients you refuse to represent. There's nothing in my employment contract that prohibits that." She tapped the envelope. "These bank statements show you've been hiding money." "Those statements show I've been saving my legitimately earned income in a personal account," I replied calmly. "Something I'm legally entitled to do." My mother stood up, her face flushing with anger. "You deliberately deceived me about the wedding expenses, those deposits you claim to have paid." "The deposits you claimed you had paid but hadn't," I interrupted. "I have the venue's written confirmation that no deposits had been received until I paid them myself 3 months ago. I also have the emails where you told me they were fully paid." She was silent for a long moment, and I could see her legal mind working through the implications. "You've been planning this," my mother said finally, her voice cold and controlled again. "For how long?" "Long enough," I replied. "You've controlled every aspect of my life for 29 years. The college I attended, the job I took, the men I dated. But you made a mistake when you tried to control my wedding." "I was trying to protect you from making a foolish decision," she said. "Harrison isn't right for you. His family has no standing, no connections that would benefit your career." I felt anger rising, but kept my voice steady. "You mean he has no connections that would benefit your career? You never cared about what would make me happy." My mother walked to her window, looking out over the city. "Happiness is a luxury, Sophia. Success is what matters. I built this firm from nothing. I gave you every advantage." "And I'm grateful," I said honestly. You taught me to be strong, to be smart, to be prepared. But you also taught me that control isn't the same as love. She turned back to me, her expression unreadable. So what now? You think you can just leave this firm and survive on your own? I know I can, I replied. I've already secured office space. 3 of my clients are coming with me. And unlike you, I actually enjoy helping people, not just winning cases. You're making a huge mistake, my mother said, returning to her desk. You'll fail within 6 months, come crawling back, and I won't be here to save you. I'm not asking you to save me, I replied. I'm asking you to let me live my own life. She picked up her phone. Security will escort you out. You have 1 hour to clear your office. Any client files remain property of this firm. Already done, I said. I've copied everything I'm legally entitled to. The rest stays here. As I turned to leave, she called after me. And the wedding? You think you can actually pull it off without my help? I paused at the door. The wedding you tried to cancel? It's still happening. Same date, same venue. You're welcome to attend, but not as the mother who pays for everything. Just as a guest, if you can handle that. Her face went pale, and I knew the second part of my plan had just registered with her. She had called the venue to cancel, but because I had paid all the deposits myself, under my name, she had no authority to cancel anything. The venue had probably just humored her call and said nothing. You played me, she said quietly. No, I replied. I just stopped letting you play me. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. I moved my practice to a small but beautiful office space in a renovated building downtown. It had exposed brick, large windows, and most importantly, it was mine. No mother looking over my shoulder, no expectations except the ones I set for myself. Bryce came with me, along with another paralegal from the firm named Casey, who had been quietly unhappy for years. Together, we built something I had only dreamed about, a practice that actually helped people instead of just maximizing billable hours. Harrison was my rock through everything. His family, unlike mine, was warm and supportive. His mother helped me paint the new office. His father built shelves for my law books. They didn't have my family's money, but they had something more valuable, genuine love and support. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members. My aunt wanted to know what had happened. My cousins were confused about the wedding status. My father called twice a day, trying to mediate. But my mother remained silent. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was as if I had ceased to exist for her. Do you think she'll come to the wedding? Harrison asked one evening as we reviewed the final guest list. Honestly, I don't know, I admitted. Part of me hopes she will, but another part of me is prepared if she doesn't. 3 weeks before the wedding, my father showed up at my new office. He looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that had nothing to do with age. Your mother won't talk about you, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. She pretends you don't exist. It's killing her, but she's too proud to admit it. I didn't want this to happen, Dad, I said honestly. I just wanted her to see me as an adult, not as another thing she could control. He nodded slowly. I know, and you're right about her. She's always been that way. It's how she survived building her career in a male-dominated field. Control became her default. But I'm not her career, I said. I'm her daughter. I know, he repeated. I've tried talking to her. She won't listen. She thinks if she holds out long enough, you'll give in and apologize. I leaned back in my chair. I have nothing to apologize for. I agree, he surprised me by saying. That's why I came here today, not to convince you to reconcile, but to tell you I'm proud of you, and to give you this. He slid an envelope across my desk. Inside was a check for $50,000. Dad, I can't. It's not from your mother, he interrupted. It's from me, my own money from investments she doesn't control. Use it for the wedding, use it for your practice, use it however you want. I stared at the check, tears threatening to spill. Dad, this is too much. It's not nearly enough, he said gently. I've watched your mother control you your whole life, and I said nothing. I told myself she knew best, that her way worked. But I was wrong. I should have stood up for you years ago. You're standing up for me now, I said, my voice breaking slightly. That's what matters. He stood up and came around the desk to hug me. I'll be at your wedding, front row, with or without your mother. After he left, I sat alone in my office, holding the check. It wasn't about the money. It was about being seen, being valued, being supported for who I was, not who someone wanted me to be. I called Harrison. My dad just gave us a wedding gift. That's great, he said warmly. How are you feeling? Grateful, I replied. And ready to start our life together, ready to build this practice, ready to be free. I love you, he said simply. I love you too. That evening, I deposited the check and made a decision. Part of the money would go to the wedding, but the rest would go to something my mother would hate. A fund to help young women from controlling families afford legal representation in disputes with their parents. 2 weeks before the wedding, my mother finally broke her silence. She sent a formal letter to my office, delivered by courier. Inside was a legal document. She was removing me from her will entirely. I read it once, then filed it away calmly. I had expected this move. It was classic manipulation, punish the disobedient child financially to force compliance. What she didn't know was that I had never counted on an inheritance. I had built my life, my career, and my future based on my own capabilities, not her money. I called my father. Did you know about the will change? I did, he admitted. I tried to talk her out of it, she wouldn't listen. It's fine, I said, surprising him with my calm tone. I never wanted her money, I just wanted her respect. You have mine, he said quietly. That should count for something. It counts for everything, I assured him. That weekend, Harrison and I had our final dress fitting and tuxedo adjustment. The wedding was coming together beautifully. Our guest list was smaller than originally planned. Many of my mother's society friends had quietly declined after hearing about our falling out, but everyone attending was there because they genuinely cared about us. No regrets, Harrison asked as we left the bridal shop. None, I said firmly. This wedding will be perfect because it's ours, not hers. 1 week before the wedding, I received an unexpected visitor at my office. It was my mother's best friend, Veronica, a woman I had known since childhood. Your mother didn't send me, she said immediately as she sat down. In fact, she'd be furious if she knew I was here. Then why are you here? I asked carefully. Veronica sighed. Because I've watched your mother destroy relationship after relationship with her need for control. She did it with her sister, her colleagues, and now with you, and I can't stay silent anymore. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was my mother, sitting alone in her office late at night, looking at my baby pictures. She misses you, Veronica said. She's just too proud to admit she was wrong. I felt a pang in my chest but held firm. Then she needs to tell me that herself. I can't fix this alone. I know, Veronica said, but I wanted you to know that underneath all that control and pride, there's a mother who loves you. She just doesn't know how to show it without controlling things. After Veronica left, I sat thinking about her words. Part of me wanted to reach out to my mother, to build a bridge, but I knew that if I made the first move, she would see it as weakness, as surrender. This had to be her choice. The day before the wedding, Harrison and I did our final walkthrough at the venue. It was a beautiful historic mansion with gardens that overlooked the river. The weather forecast was perfect. Everything was ready. As we reviewed the seating chart with the wedding coordinator, I noticed my mother's name was still listed. My father had confirmed he was coming, but had been vague about whether she would join him. Should we remove this seat? The coordinator asked, pointing to my mother's placement. I hesitated, then shook my head. Leave it, just in case. That evening, my bridesmaids threw me a small celebration at my apartment. It wasn't the elaborate bachelorette party my mother had originally planned, complete with a trip to wine country, but it was perfect. Just my closest friends, good food, and genuine laughter. My best friend since college, Willow, pulled me aside during the evening. How are you really doing? Tomorrow's a big day, and I know the situation with your mother is weighing on you. I'm okay, I said honestly. I wish things were different, but I can't change her. I can only change how I react to her. That's very mature, Willow said, hugging me. And for what it's worth, I'm so proud of you. You've handled this whole situation with such grace. At midnight, after everyone had left and Harrison had gone to stay with his parents according to tradition, I sat alone in our apartment, thinking about the next day. My wedding day dawned bright and clear. I woke up early in the bridal suite at the venue, surrounded by my bridesmaids. The morning was a blur of hair, makeup, and laughter. For a few hours, I forgot about everything except the joy of marrying the man I loved. Willow helped me into my dress, a simple but elegant gown I had chosen myself. No input from my mother, no arguments about tradition. Just me and a dress that made me feel beautiful. You look stunning, Willow said, her eyes tearing up. Harrison's going to lose it when he sees you. There was a knock at the door. My father entered, dressed in his tuxedo, and stopped in his tracks. Sophia, he breathed, you're absolutely beautiful. Is she here? I asked quietly, knowing he would understand. He shook his head sadly. She's not. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I tried everything. I felt the sting of disappointment, but pushed it aside. Then, let's make this day perfect anyway. As my father and I waited for our cue to walk down the aisle, he squeezed my hand. Your mother is making a terrible mistake, but that's her loss, not yours. You're going to have a beautiful life with or without her approval. I know, I said, meaning it. I've already started building it. The music started and my father walked me down the aisle. The venue was decorated with white roses and soft lighting. Our guests stood as we passed, smiling warmly. I saw Harrison's mother dabbing her eyes with a tissue. His father beamed with pride. And then I saw Harrison at the altar, and nothing else mattered. The look on his face made every struggle, every difficult choice, every painful moment worth it. He was looking at me like I was the most precious thing in his world. As my father placed my hand in Harrison's, he whispered, "Take care of her." "Always," Harrison promised. The ceremony was beautiful. We had written our own vows, another choice my mother had opposed. As Harrison promised to support my dreams, to respect my independence, and to build a life of partnership rather than control, I felt tears streaming down my face. When it was my turn, I looked into his eyes and said, "I promise to never let fear control me, to always choose love over pride, and to build a life with you based on mutual respect and genuine partnership." The officiant pronounced us married, and as Harrison kissed me, our guests erupted in applause. I was no longer Sophia Torres, the controlled daughter. I was Sophia Bennett, a woman who had chosen her own path. The reception was everything I had dreamed of. The food was delicious, the music perfect, the atmosphere joyful. Harrison and I danced our first dance to a song we had chosen together, not one my mother had insisted was more appropriate. During dinner, my father stood to give a toast. "To my daughter Sophia," he began, his voice carrying across the room. "You've shown more courage in these past few months than most people show in a lifetime. You've taught me that true strength isn't about control, it's about having the bravery to be yourself." To Sophia and Harrison. The guests raised their glasses, and I saw genuine love and support in their faces. These people were here for us, not for social obligations or appearances. As the evening continued, I found myself glancing occasionally at the empty seat where my mother should have been. Part of me had held out hope that she would surprise me, that she would choose love over pride. But the seat remained empty. Willow noticed me looking and squeezed my shoulder. "Her loss," she whispered. "This wedding is perfect." And it was. Despite everything, despite the drama and the pain and the complicated family dynamics, this was the happiest day of my life. Because it was mine, truly, completely mine. A week after the wedding, Harrison and I returned from our honeymoon in Costa Rica to find my law practice thriving. Bryce and Casey had handled everything beautifully, and we had 3 new clients waiting. I also found a stack of messages from family members, all saying variations of the same thing. My mother was not handling my absence well. She had apparently shown up at my old apartment twice, forgetting I had moved. She had called the family firm looking for me, forgetting I no longer worked there. "She's unraveling," my aunt told me over coffee. "This was supposed to be her power move, cutting you off, but I think she's realizing she miscalculated." "I didn't want to hurt her," I said honestly. "I just wanted to live my own life." "I know," my aunt replied. "But your mother has never understood that control and love aren't the same thing. She spent so long controlling everything that she doesn't know how to just love someone without strings attached." That evening, I received an email from my mother's assistant at the firm. It was brief and professional. "Mrs. Torres would like to schedule a meeting with you. Please advise your availability." I stared at the email for a long time, my finger hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her feel the pain of being shut out the way she had shut me out. But I wasn't my mother. I agreed to meet my mother at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop neither of us had been to before. I arrived early and chose a table in the back, away from windows and other customers. My mother arrived exactly on time, dressed in her usual powerful suit, but looking somehow smaller than I remembered. She sat down without greeting me, her hands folded on the table. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. "You look well," she finally said. "Marriage suits you." "Thank you," I replied carefully. Another silence. My mother was never at a loss for words, but today she seemed to be struggling with basic conversation. "I made a mistake," she said suddenly, the words rushing out as if she had to say them before she lost courage. "Not about controlling you, though everyone says that's what I did. My mistake was thinking I could control someone I loved without pushing them away." I waited, knowing there was more. "I built my career by being stronger than everyone else," she continued. "By never showing weakness, never backing down. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that you're not a case to win. You're my daughter." "I know you love me," I said quietly. "But love without respect isn't enough." She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. I had never seen my mother cry. "I missed your wedding," my mother said, her voice breaking. "The most important day of your life, and I missed it because I was too proud to admit I was wrong." "Yes, you did," I said simply. I wasn't going to make this easier for her by downplaying the hurt. "Your father showed me pictures," she continued. "You looked beautiful, happy, everything a bride should be, and I wasn't there to see it." "That was your choice," I reminded her gently. She wiped her eyes with a tissue from her purse, carefully maintaining her composure even while crying. "I want to fix this. Tell me how." I leaned forward. "You can't fix the past. You can't get back the wedding or the moments you missed, but you can change the future." "How?" she asked desperately. "By respecting my choices, even when you disagree with them," I said. "By supporting my practice instead of predicting its failure. By welcoming Harrison as my husband instead of seeing him as beneath our family. By being my mother instead of my manager." She absorbed this, nodding slowly. "I don't know if I can change who I am." "I'm not asking you to change who you are," I said. "I'm asking you to change how you treat me. There's a difference." My mother looked at me with something I rarely saw in her eyes, genuine respect. "When did you become so wise?" "You taught me," I replied honestly. "You taught me to be strong, to stand up for myself, to not back down from what I believe in. I just finally started applying those lessons to our relationship." Over the next few months, my mother and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't always smooth. She still occasionally tried to offer unsolicited advice about my practice or my marriage, but she was learning to catch herself. The real breakthrough came when she asked to see my new office. I gave her a tour, showing her the conference room, the small library, the waiting area we had decorated with comfortable chairs and fresh flowers. She examined everything with her lawyer's eye, but when she spoke, her tone was different. "This is really good work, Sophia," she said, reviewing one of my case files. "You're helping people who actually need help, not just chasing billable hours." "That's what I wanted to do," I replied. "That's why I left the firm." She nodded. "I can see that now. I thought you were running away from me. I didn't realize you were running toward something." It was the closest thing to an apology I would probably ever get from her, and I accepted it. Harrison joined us for dinner that evening. The first time the three of us had shared a meal since the disastrous wedding planning lunch. My mother was polite to him, asking about his work, his family, showing genuine interest instead of thinly veiled criticism. "I owe you an apology too, Harrison," she said over dessert. "I judged you unfairly because of circumstances beyond your control. You make my daughter happy, and that should have been enough for me." Harrison smiled warmly. "Thank you, Mrs. Torres. That means a lot." 6 months after the wedding, my practice had grown beyond my expectations. We had expanded to a second office and hired 2 more attorneys. The fund I had started to help women in controlling family situations had helped 5 women so far, and we were getting more applications every week. My mother, surprisingly, had started referring clients to me. Not her high-profile corporate cases, but people she met who needed the kind of personal, compassionate legal help I provided. It was her way of supporting me while respecting my independence. One day, she called me with an unusual request. "Would you and Harrison like to come to dinner this Sunday? Just family, nothing formal." I accepted, curious about what had prompted the invitation. Sunday dinner turned out to be my parents, Harrison and me, and my aunt with her family. It was warm, relaxed, nothing like the formal dinners my mother usually hosted. After the meal, my mother asked if she could speak to me privately. We went out to her garden, where she had a beautifully maintained rose garden. "I've been thinking about something," she said, touching one of the rose blooms gently. "About legacy and what I want to leave behind." "Mom, you don't have to." "Please let me finish," she interrupted. "I built my career to prove I could succeed in a man's world, but what did I sacrifice for that success? I almost lost my only daughter. That's not the legacy I want." My mother continued, "I'm changing my will, not because I'm trying to control you with money, but because I want you to know that you matter, that you've always mattered, even when I didn't know how to show it." "Mom, I don't need your money," I said gently. "I have my practice, my life with Harrison, I'm okay." "I know you are," she replied. "That's exactly why you deserve it, because you didn't need it to survive. You built your own success." She paused, then added, "I'm also setting up a fund to support your program helping women from controlling families. It seems fitting." I felt tears forming. This was more than money. This was acknowledgement, respect, support, everything I had wanted from her for so long. "Thank you," I said, hugging her. "Not for the money, but for finally seeing me." She held me tightly. "I always saw you. I just didn't want to admit that who you were was better than who I wanted you to be." We stood in her garden, mother and daughter, finally understanding each other. The road had been painful, but we had arrived at something neither of us had expected: genuine mutual respect. "Come on," she said finally, wiping her eyes. "Let's go back inside before your father thinks we're out here arguing again." "Does he worry about that?" I asked. "Every time we're alone together," she admitted with a slight smile. "Can you blame him?" A year after the wedding my mother almost canceled, Harrison and I hosted our first anniversary party. It was small and intimate, held in the garden of our new home. My parents came, as did Harrison's family, our closest friends, and several clients who had become like family. My mother arrived with a gift, a framed photo from our wedding day that my father had taken. It showed Harrison and me during our first dance, looking at each other with pure joy. She had it professionally framed with an inscription at the bottom. "To Sophia and Harrison, may you always choose love over control. With love, Mom." "It's perfect," I said, genuinely moved. "I wish I had been there to see it in person," she said quietly, "but at least I can see how happy you are now." As the party continued, I found myself standing back and observing. My practice was thriving, my marriage was strong, my relationship with my mother was healing. Everything I had risked by standing up for myself had paid off in ways I never imagined. Willow came over with a glass of champagne. "Remember that lunch where everything fell apart?" "How could I forget?" I replied. "Look at you now," she said, gesturing at the happy gathering. "You took control of your own life, and it's better than anything your mother could have planned." She was right. By refusing to let my mother fund and control my circus, I had created something better, a life that was authentically mine. The envelope I had given her that day contained proof I was prepared to stand on my own. But what I really gave her was something more valuable, the truth that her daughter was strong enough to survive without her control. And in the end, that truth had set us both free.